wisdom. Student enrollment, that's what the class of God students enroll in. Supreme wisdom, I study it hard. The study of myself is the study of God. Supreme wisdom, write your letter, get your X. Supreme wisdom, that's what you'll be getting next. Supreme wisdom, some call it the lessons, but I call it life, actual facts, no guessing.
Going back to the message of the black man, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says, Allah said, when Yakub was 6 years old, one day he was sitting down playing with 2 pieces of steel. He noticed the magnetic power in the steel attracting the other. He looked up at his uncle and said, Uncle, when I get to be an old man, I'm going to make a people who shall rule you. And the uncle said, what would you make? Something to make mischief and cause bloodshed in the land? Yakub said, nevertheless, uncle, I know that which you do not know. And this is from the making of Devil and the Message of the Black Man in America. Now take that in. This is Yakub, right? Talking to his uncle about the making of a man to rule his uncle and the people of his uncle. What do we see that? It's the same conversation in the Holy Quran that God was having with the angels, right? Almost word for word. Brother Malik, if you can read that for me.
And when thy Lord said to the angels, I am going to place a ruler in the earth, they said, wilt thou place in it such as make mischief in it and shed blood? And we celebrate thy praise and extol thy holiness. He said, sure, I know what you know not.
If you can go back to the previous slide. So Sylvia, can you read that again? Because you know I talked that, so you might have missed that one.
Yes, ma'am. Allah said, when Yakub was 6 years old, one day he was sitting down playing with 2 pieces of steel. He noticed the magnetic power in the steel attracting the other. He looked up at his uncle and said, Uncle, when I get to be an old man, I am going to make a people who shall rule you. The uncle said, what will you make? Something to make mischief and cause bloodshed in the land. Yakub said, nevertheless, uncle, I know that which you know, do not know.
Isn't that the same conversation?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's talking about, again, the Quran, the Bible are leading us to a people being made. Now, I didn't want to put all this because this would have just filled up the PowerPoint, but down in the footnotes it talks about this conversation being between God and Adam, but then it goes in to say that in Islamic traditions there are many Adams. So it's saying that this is not talking about the creation of all of man, but this is talking about the creation of the making of a specific man, and specifically this man was going to cause trouble, but the angels didn't understand that person's plan, right? And so God said to them, you know, I know what you know not. This is Yakub having a conversation with his uncle, saying that, you know, same conversation that Rebecca and God had, right? Because Rebecca is Jacob too, right? You remember, these are not individual people, these we're talking about a group of people. So Rebecca is Jacob as well. And so God was having a conversation, was let her know that you're going to make a people that's going to rule another, right? And said that it was going to cause mischief, because if you're going to rule your brother, ain't that mischief? Mm-hmm. That don't sound like righteousness to me. So next slide. Okay, so my question that I asked myself, because my background is in physics and mathematics, I asked from that statement, what does playing with steel have to do with one people ruling another, right? Didn't that sound funny to you? It's like a little boy playing with 2 pieces of steel, and then at 6 years old, he was like, Uncle, I'm gonna make somebody else go with me. And Uncle's like, you know, what are we talking about? You know, what are you gonna make that's gonna cause mischief and bloodshed? The little boy telling the grown man, you know, I know what you know not. You 6 years old. What you know? So I had to look deeper. So I asked myself the question, what is steel? So steel is a metal alloy which includes iron and often some carbon. So alloy is just a fancy word of means mixture. Okay? So it's a mixture, it's a metal that's a mixture of iron and carbon. And so it says, by changing the amount of carbon or other atoms that can be in this steel, because steel can be just a mixture of different things, but mostly iron and carbon. When you change the amount of carbon or other atoms added to the steel will change the properties of the steel itself. So this mix, this balance of the carbon and iron is going to change the properties of the steel. So some of the properties that will change when you change the mixture is the hardness, how easily it bends, I believe that's called malleable, the ductility. So when we're dealing with metals, the ductility means the ability to be pulled into wires, right? Like in your headphones and rebar and things like this, that's ductility. The strength of the metal, it's what? What's that word?
Magnetic.
Magnetic. It is magnetic, so depending on its balance, you can change whether it's magnetic or not, whether it can pick up, and you can also change the property of its corrosion, whether it'll rust or not. Next slide. So, steel is an alloy made of carbon and iron. So this is a picture of carbon. So the definition I got of carbon is a non-metallic element found native as in diamonds and graphite, or as a constituent of coal, petroleum, asphalt, limestone, and organic compounds obtained artificially as inactivated charcoal. So what do you notice about this piece of material?
It's black.
It's black, right? Right? So, and if you can see some of the things, isn't charcoal black?
Mm-hmm.
Petroleum black, asphalt, all that's black stuff. So what it's saying is that you got this black stuff that's mixed in with this iron to make steel. But also what's interesting about carbon is that carbon is in all organic matter. So if it's a living thing, as in plant, animal, or like human, it has carbon in it. So carbon is essential to life, chemically. And the next material is iron. So iron, this is a picture of a piece of iron, and it says iron is a silver white, malleable, ductile, magnetic, heavy metallic element that readily rusts in most air, occurs native in meteorites, and combined in most igneous rocks, is the most useful of metals and is vital to biological process. So, as the definition said, right? And you can look at this. This material is what?
White.
White. I just thought that was interesting. But also, we heard that steel can have magnetic properties based on the mix between the iron and the carbon, but this is where your magnetic property comes from. So the actual magnetic property or the magnetism in the in the steel comes from the iron, or the white part, is what makes steel magnetic. And steel also, iron also is essential to life. We have iron in our blood, right? Mm-hmm. It helps us be able to use oxygen. It's in our hemoglobin, right? The stuff that makes our blood red depends on oxygen. Because when iron oxidizes, that's just a big fancy word for rust. What color does it turn? Red. Which is also interesting. Next slide. So in the message to the black man, he says, and it was at that moment for playing with this steel, which is a mixture of this black and white substance. At that moment, the boy Yakub first came to the knowledge of just who he was, born to make trouble, break peace, kill, and destroy his own people, with a made enemy to the black nation. He learned his future from playing with steel. It is steel and more steel that has made the race, the white race, and are still, that his made race, the white race, are still playing with. Steel has become the most useful of all metal for the people. What he really saw in playing with the two pieces of steel was the magnetic power of attraction. Okay, so we get down to what he really meant by he was playing with two pieces of steel. Also, what I would like to note is that iron is metallic, but carbon is non-metallic. So again, this whole theme of like and unlike, right? So metal and non-metal, unalike. One is magnetic, one is not magnetic, unalike. One is black, one is white, unalike. But it further says, next slide, power of attraction. The one attracting and drawing the other under its power. In this he saw an unalike human being made to attract others who could, with the knowledge of tricks and lies, rule the original black man, until that nation could produce one greater and capable of overcoming and making manifest his race of tricks and lies with a nation of truth. Yakub was the founder of Unalike Attract and Like Repels, though Mr. Yakub was a member of the black nation, and that comes from message to the black man as well. So, did you just see that? So the messenger switched from talking about two pieces of metal to tricks and lies. So there's something that he wants us to see in this relationship that has to deal with. So from playing with two pieces of metal, he was able to see that through tricks and lies, this made people can rule the other one. Because we knew that the younger one, right, was weak. So going back to the narrative of Esau and Jacob, how did Jacob steal the birthright? Did he fight him for it? What did he do? He disguised himself, or he what? He tricked him. And then he lied to his father. So this was the idea Yakub or Jacob had in his mind when he was going to make this people, because he understood through tricks and lies, that's how you can dominate the stronger, the older, the more powerful. That's how you can dominate the original man, is that you have to mix truth with falsehood. You have to use deception, lies, and all these other manner of things to get the one who's physically strong under your control, but is mentally weak. And then what did we say happened 50,000 years ago?
The black man, what?
The black man fell. Because you ask yourself, how did this happen? You know, like they say, not on my watch, Iyama Banzan, not on my watch, you know what I'm talking about right now. So, the only way this could happen is if the black man had fallen, and he actually had fallen 50,000 years ago. So, even this goes back to Isaac. Isaac, when he got old, by the time he got old, what had happened?
Yeah, no one's
He was blind. And it was because he was blinded, he couldn't see through the tricks and lies and deceit of Rebekah and Jacob, that he was able to fall for that trick. So the black man had to have fallen for this to happen.
Supreme wisdom, some call it the lessons, but I call it life, actual facts, no guessing.